What is up, guys? Welcome to the No Half Cakes podcast. My name is Jim Sabelico, and I will be your host for this show. On this episode, we've got a very interesting conversation, which may honestly not appeal to everyone. However, if you are someone or know someone who has struggled with dyslexia or learning in the best way possible, if you've ever felt like you are behind in learning and struggling to keep on pace with where you need to be or where you want to be, I want you to listen to this episode. I sit down with Russell Van Brocklen and we talk about how to effectively teach people, how to speak to people, how to learn, the reasons why school may be getting it wrong. We talk about how to kind of individualize that learning process to really help people get back on grade level, get above grade level. We talk about what it means to really be someone who struggles and then to take that struggle and turn it into triumph, to kind of come back and not only redeem yourself, but then come back and help other people as well. So this has been a truly amazing conversation, and I want to jump into it with you right now. So let's do that.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I love technology being a pain in the neck. You have a very, let me just turn my phone off. You have a very interesting background. So you're doing really well in business, and then what happened with your child at 6 really kind of just brought things home to you?
It did, yeah. To be honest with you, it didn't really sink in as much until recently. I would say, within the past probably year and a half or so. To clarify that, it definitely was a pivotal moment for me where I realized, hey, this is not what success is supposed to feel like, right? You want to be present for your life, not just stacking up things, but to really be in your life. And that was kind of like the starting point. But I don't think I was as convicted in that belief and as charged in going out and helping people live that life. So about a year and a half ago. I don't know, to be honest with you, what specifically sparked that. But I will tell you for sure, it is stronger now than it has ever been.
Yep. But I'll tell you, I've been trying to get there, but I'm hoping to get where you are in the next year or two. But I had to totally rewrite the field of dyslexia completely and take the impossibly complex and make it impossibly simple. And it's just been, wow. It's been really tough. I know where you're coming from.
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's a struggle there with dyslexia that I'd love for you to kind of speak on, because my understanding of it may be wrong, right? So I would love for you to fill me in here, but it almost feels like you're almost understanding it incorrectly in a way. Like you can see it and you understand it, but for some reason the lines just get crossed somewhere in the mix and it comes out the wrong way. Do I have a good understanding of what dyslexia really is?
Let me try to explain what it is. First of all, just so I can put in context, you ran a successful business. Just real quick, what was it that you did successfully? What was your solution that allowed you to be that successful?
To be honest with you, I think the key differentiator there is relationship and kind of just speaking to people, not just pushing product, but doing the right thing by people. I think that was the thing for me.
No, but what was, just on a technical end, what was it that you were successful in? What was your technical solution that allowed that to work?
Well, the product there was marketing and website design.
Okay. And what did you do to make it work? What made you different than everybody else?
Well, again, I think it goes back to the relationship aspect, where it's not just you're cranking out volume, but you're actually giving a damn about what you're doing and connecting with the person to say, hey, what is it that's actually going to benefit you, and delivering on that result longer term, not just hit and run style.
Okay, good. So let me try to relate that. So you were extremely successful with that. All right. Now I want you to imagine your kid's dyslexic. All right. That was your 7-year-old son? Am I correct on that?
Well, that was my 6-year-old son at that point.
Yes,
but I will say my currently 9-year-old daughter is. So this is a close to home topic.
Oh, she is
for me.
dyslexic.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, let me clarify there. She's never been formally diagnosed in any way. I don't even know if that's a formal thing you can diagnose, but
Oh,
she does
absolutely.
struggle immensely with like the difference between a D and a B, for
Okay.
example. Minor things like that.
Okay, so let me tell you what dyslexia is. The first thing you need to understand is anytime anybody in my field tells you anything different than Norton Gillingham multi-sensory structured language approach, which I know doesn't mean anything right now, but it will in a second. If we tell you anything besides that, your bullshit detector needs to be on max, okay? Because there's so much worthless crap in my field, you would not believe it. And my field is the size of imagine every dollar associated with the NFL, the NBA, and then every movie ticket sold in the United States, and then add billions. That's my field. So this is the top selling book in the field of dyslexia. Are you familiar with it?
No.
Okay, you're going to want to get a copy of this.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, this is brain scans from Yale. That's dyslexia.
Okay.
Okay, now do you see the back part of your brain? Do you see how you have all this massive neural activity? Now, do you see how the back part of mine has next to nothing?
Yes.
Now, do you see how the front part of my brain has about 2.5 times the neural activity?
Yes.
Okay, that's how we overcome dyslexia. If you go, here's the issue with your daughter who's 9. All right, she's in 3rd grade.
She's in 4th grade.
Okay, she's in 4th grade. Did she pass? Oh, I'm sorry, that's one problem I have with dyslexia. It's the basic math. Did she pass her reading and writing test in 3rd grade for whatever state
Yeah.
you're in? She did pass.
Yes.
Okay. What did you do to make that happen?
A lot of at-home work and practice and repetition.
Okay. What grade did she get on that test?
I no idea.
Did she just pass, or did she pass it with some margin?
I would say closer to just passing.
Just passing. Okay. You have any idea how lucky you are?
In general, yes, but
No. With
tell me
that,
more.
you're talking a passage rate for a dyslexic is about 10%. Okay. You just moved heaven and earth to get that to happen. Sound familiar?
Does
Let me tell you what would happen if she failed. K through 3, we learn to read. Fourth and above, we read to learn. So what you're supposed to do, if you know any other parent, contact Yale. Okay, when they're in kindergarten, you can test for dyslexia in kindergarten. It's really accurate. The teacher can do it. It's very inexpensive. Then they have a whole bunch of research-approved approach that have been around since we both had hair. Okay, so it's been around for decades. If you follow that, your daughter wouldn't have just passed. She would have passed pretty well. Okay, they would have solved it or close to have solved it. Schools don't do that. They wait until after 4th grade. Now, once you wait until after 4th grade, a lot of parents sue the school districts. Federal judges ask, "Did you do this?" They said no. They call it grossly negligent. So then they send them to an Orton Gillingham multi-sensory based school. That's, give you an example, the Windward School in the Upper East Side of Manhattan has a 98% success rate. They will take your dyslexic child and work with them for quite a bit of time and then send them back, and they are as prepared as the best private schools anywhere in the world. It takes 4 to 5 years at $75,000 a year. Sound like fun?
yeah, great time.
So even if let's say your daughter failed, okay, and now you're in this boat, even if you can write the check plus with everything else, if you can write the $100,000+ check, she's still going away to boarding school, which is not something most families want, even if they can pay for that. So when I looked at this, that's the system. What state are you in? Oh, you're in New York State. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Did you realize that they just they're trying to redo the entire elementary school education system in New York State?
Yes.
Did you hear of the Dyslexia Task Force?
I did not.
Oh, this is exactly up your alley. What part of New York State are you in?
I'm on Long Island.
You're
About
on Long
midway
Island.
through.
Okay.
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to give you something. This is going to shock the living hell out of you. All right. I'd like yeah, of course, you're on a computer. Can you go? Do you have an extra screen? You can Google something? Okay. New York State Dyslexia Task Force report.
Okay.
New York State Education Department. Okay. Now, do you see how it came up with if you click on the link, it will show you a report?
I do.
You're going to want to read that. So what happened in New York State is the chairman of our Judiciary Committee His name is Senator um, Senator's I forget his I can't Hoyleman Segal. Okay, he's a Rhodes Scholar from Oxford. He's a Harvard Law grad. He found out that his daughter was 4 years in fourth grade, and they diagnosed dyslexia. Then didn't do any intervention. They said, "You came to us in kindergarten, beginning of first grade. We could solve this without much trouble." Now she's in a $75,000 a year private school. Her neuropsych was her neuropsychological evaluation was $8,000. Now, because of that, if you think your daughter's dyslexic, what you're going to want to do is have her teachers write up something for her pediatrician. Take her into the pediatrician. Have the pediatrician, if the pediatrician agrees, no pressure, this kid looks like she's dyslexic. Have her write something to your insurance company. No, they got to pay up to $5,000 for a neuropsych. That will tell you definitively as best they can, unless you drag her up to Yale and put her heads under the brain scan. All right, that'll tell you. But that's anything over 5,000 you have to pay. All right, but that'll tell you.
Right.
Okay, but you want the pediatrician to write that letter.
Got it. What, just to kind of recenter us for a second here, if I'm understanding correctly, there's basically, I'm trying to generalize this as simple as I can. Brain activity is located in a different region or highlighted in a different region for the dyslexic versus the non, right? Okay.
Yes.
So how do you leverage that to overcome it? Like, is there, to me, I assume there's some level of advantage here if you understand what it is and how to use it.
Yes, this came out in 2003, and I'm the only one that does it. So let me just tell you what happened with New York State. So that report came out. Then they wanted to incorporate that throughout the rest of the whole state. Two problems. You have to remember, we're the highest tax state in the country. Number two, we spend more per kid than anybody else in the country. Two things happened. But that is not passed this fall. We can't afford it. The teachers rebel because they can't take weeks and weeks to understand it for additional training. Okay, this makes all the sense in the world because they want to solve the problem by the end of fifth grade. So when it comes to using that overactive part of the brain, the first thing I did is, remember, this is 20 years ago. It took me years, but I was eventually funded by the New York State Senate. And I want you to imagine the best and brightest dyslexic students in the grades, they're juniors and seniors, highly intelligent, highly motivated, excellent family support, college bound. This was in a school district right outside of Albany, New York, called Averill Park. The students were scoring in the middle school writing ability. One class period a day for the school year in the public school. The best teacher, Susan Ford, at the end of it, they scored in the average range of entering school students. Not college. They had the writing skills of college graduates before they started. Plus New York State 8 grade levels improvement. They had, they all graduated from college, GPAs of 2.5 to 3.6. Key thing, you know the accommodations your daughter's getting? No accommodations, none of them. They were offered, they refused them, didn't need them. Cost New York State less than $900. It was 3 times as effective as the best private program for college students for less than 1% of the cost. All right, now Now,
I was going to say, it seems like a win. Like, why would that not be universally accepted?
Well, I presented that in New York City in 2006 because the problem is the students, it was designed to be an introductory program. It was designed just to show people what's going on. The issue is that it didn't, they asked me, does this translate to normal kids, to younger kids? I said, absolutely not. So they said, go and do that. I had to take off 8 years to even begin to address this. So I've been teaching it to New York City public school districts for the past 10 years at Everyone Reading. And essentially, now I've simplified it for parents. So to give you an example, what I did is, again, going back to the science, that for part of the brain, they said it was articulation followed by word analysis. I flipped it to word analysis followed by articulation. Then what I found is the kids weren't doing it, won't do the work. So I had to focus on their specialty, their area of extreme interest and ability. And then I found out I had to teach them not from the general to the specific, but the specific to the general. Because if you ask your daughter, you find out her specialty, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization? She's going to say yes. So then the idea is to force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. how effective is that? I'm currently writing a book. My co-author is Evelyn Whitebay. She was on the Dyslexia Task Force as a teacher because she was 3 to 4x as successful as the typical special ed teacher. And it's based on Kimberly. I met her last December, December 27th. Didn't realize that she paid $700 to have all her kids tested. Reed was at the beginning third grade for reading and writing. So if he was in public school for the rest of the school year, he was supposed to increase by 1.86 points. He increased by 20 points, 11x the pace. Not double, not triple, 11x. She worked with Reed on average an hour and a half a week. I trained her for about a half an hour a week. At the end of fifth grade, he was actually graded a little bit above grade level. But here's the key thing. His friends came to him and they said, Reed, we want you in public school to be with us socially. You know how important that is. So that was January, they would have put him in special ed. He would have been away from his friends. Miserable kid. But because his mother achieved what every parent dreams of, he started sixth grade in gen ed classes. He's doing just fine. They retested him when he entered first week of sixth grade. They said, you're either at the very end of fifth grade or the very beginning of sixth grade, which is first week of school, exactly where he is. Few issues he came up with. He didn't like writing in math class. His teacher loves writing in math class. Not because he couldn't, but because he's slower. And you know how well-raised kids are when they do things they don't like. They push, and then they see if they can get away with it. He couldn't, so he said, okay, I'll do it. And then he forgot to turn in his Google. He didn't know he needed to submit things on Google Docs or something for a journal. So he had a C. Then he figured that out. He's back up to a B range. So he's doing just fine. And this is the process that parents can teach their kids at home. Why do I have it done that way? Because most parents can't afford, these $150, $200 an hour dyslexic tutors. It's just not there for most families. So I have them teach the kids normally in 10 to 15 minute segments. And some kids will finish faster than Reed. Some will take longer, but it's just a baseline.
Right.
So that's the change. And the idea is to accelerate this faster than the schools that have, that are 75,000 a year. Why is that? Dr. Orton passed away in 1948. Things haven't changed much with that approach since the 1950s. And I'm not joking. Have things changed much in your field since the 1950s?
A little bit.
Yeah, like it didn't exist in the 1950s. Your field has changed so much in the past 20 years. This is the basic stuff hasn't changed since 03. This is 22 years ago. Okay. That's how stuck my field is. So the idea is, so what I had to do was not only take the brain and understand it, but take it from the teaching from the most elite, the most highly motivated, the most brilliant students, and the very best teacher the school district had. And then I had to drop it down to some motivated AP English high school girl because literally what I do with some of them is I have some families that contact me that just literally they're in poverty line. And then I find students who want to go to the Ivy League and they're brilliant private school students. And I'll match them up and say, okay, get this kid to get on grade level. So I had to design it for a 14-year-old schoolgirl, who, even though being AP English, to try to make, that's been fun.
Yeah. So it leads me to another question. I have a lot of questions here, but my immediate question would be, how do you manage the struggle of the kid who is actually very intelligent, but because they can't articulate that in the right way because of this one little change, they believe that they're dumb?
This happens all the time. So let's take a look. Let's find a specific student. What age kid are you talking about?
In general, because I even see it with adults. And I think, the way that I see it in adults, to me, I would imagine, is they've suffered with that thought since they were a kid, and they just never kind of learned to understand, hey, what is your superpower? How to leverage that. They believe that, hey, because I struggle in this one area means I'm just not good enough in general. And they kind of become blind to the things that they can do. And it becomes this kind of self-defeating cycle. Okay. So, that's kind of what I'm looking at.
So are these kids muddling through, or are they completely shattered? Which one are we going after?
I'd say muddling through. Okay. I think they're surviving. They're doing okay. They, they're not excelling.
Okay, so let's explain why the kid isn't excelling. So let me give you an example of a recent student I'm starting to work with. I'm going to change his name to John to protect his identity. John's 13. He's in public school and he's muddling through. Okay, his parents are both hyper educated, very successful. They spend a lot of time with him, but they're concerned because his reading and writing, they say it's at third grade, but his brother's in third grade and he's reading and writing a lot better than he is. So we're really talking about maybe first or second grade level. Let's look at how the school system teaches these kids. First thing the school system does is they teach a lot of material. Like, I want you to think back to when you were in English class, middle school, high school. You see how you did several books a year?
Right.
Okay. Dyslexics want to specialize. We want to focus on one book a year, something we're really interested in. Secondly, do you see when you were in school, college and everything, that you were taught from the general to the specific? So let's take an example for a dyslexic. Asking us for Martin Luther King, for example. What effect did Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech have on the American 1960 civil rights movement? It's like us trying to grab fog. There's nothing there. We have to ask a specific to a general question. What personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech? If we answer that answer gives us that answer gives us another question that we answer, and as we continue, that forces our brain to organize itself in a linear, step-by-step manner, because the front part of our brain are 2.5 times overactive, and it's extremely chaotic. So again, you ask the dyslexic, do you have ideas in your speciality flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization? The answer is yes. Okay. And they're certainly not doing word analysis followed by articulation. Now, let's give an example of John. Okay. I asked John, what's your speciality? And he was exactly muddling through. He said he really liked a video, which he said was for kids his age, on taking, I'm not joking, paint thinner and turning it into cherry soda. Okay, he was phenomenally interested in this. So I asked John, I said, if I were to switch your home, I said, I'm not going to do this, but if your homework was to figure out what started World War II, he said, yeah, I'll do it. He'll muddle through. I said, no, your homework is to go to your video and rewatch it. He's like, really? He got so excited. So he goes and watches the video. I take the video and I run it through ChatGPT 5 Pro. I pay the $200 a month in the Pro plan. It thinks for 15 minutes. It says, oh, this video is at least a senior year of high school, most likely in college. And I was like, really, John? Okay, so I had to write a 2,000-word essay on the video. I said, I want the content to be 12th grade, second month. I want the reading level 9th grade, second month. And when I talked to him the next time, I said, really, this is for students your age. And this is for college students. He's like, really? I said, yes. So what we have here is a very classic, in the speciality, 4 or 5 plus grade years ahead of his peers, reading and writing 4 or 5 grade levels back from his peers, if not more. So I started him off on a process where we're going to work on that 2,000-word essay. And he's going to go over and over it a very specific way, word analysis followed by articulation. It's in a speciality specific to the general. He's going to be going through that until he can read it on his own. I'm figuring that'll probably take about a month, maybe a month and a half for him to go through that essay. Then as we progress, he'll just be able to do that faster and faster. Instead of getting a book and an audio book, we're getting things customized for him because he's so specific, and we're having it read by Speechify, which is an audio app created by a dyslexic.
Right.
So what that does is that flips that around. You focus on what he's really good at during the intervention period, and we get him to grade level. All right, then like Reed, you can send them in, and they're going to buck like crazy. I don't want to do all this stuff I don't like. Well, too bad. You can now. All right, and once you put up a firm wall, then they do it. But now they're functioning just fine in class because we closed that gap.
Right. So kind of what I'm hearing there is part of this bigger issue, and I'm making an assumption, but correct me if I'm wrong, is parents who assume the schools will teach their kids, and they put their kids into a program that's going to teach generally because they're teaching to a class of 30 kids. They have to kind of generalize and not taking the steps at home to really reinforce or specialize that education or that reinforcement of what the kid needs to learn at home. And I would tend to assume it's not malicious or it's not generally lazy. I would assume for lack of information or for lack of understanding, hey, how do I actually do this?
No, the schools know. Okay. Let me be why the schools are doing this. I mean, again, going back to the science. See all that massive, again, neuroactivity in the back part of your brain? All right.
Right.
This is 80+% of the students are not dyslexic, ADD, or ADHD, because my process works exactly as well for those kids as well. They're doing this because this works fine for the most students. So let's just take you're in Long Island. So let's just assume we're in an upper middle class school district. You have a gen ed kid who's intelligent, and the parents both have advanced degrees and they're doing well. They spend a lot of time with their kid. They just in the family say, you're going to go to school and you're going to work really hard. If a kid's intelligent and they gen ed and they go to an upper class Long Island school district and they work really hard, chances are they're going to do very well. All right. They will get into college. They will do well in college. All right. That's typically what happens. But with the schools, they know this, or they should know this. Be very clear. In New York State, we spend more on education than anybody. All right. It has been common knowledge for decades that if you get these kids tested in kindergarten, and it's inexpensive, it doesn't cost a lot, and the teachers can do it. You find out that they're dyslexic, and then you go again to Yale. It's a clearinghouse. There are other ones, but that's the most reputable one. And they have all these federally backed programs. Do this. And what the teachers don't like about it is these programs tell them exactly what to do and how to do it. And these people have master's degrees and they want to change things, and these programs aren't for changing. So they don't implement them for whatever reason. There's a laundry list of them. So then we take that third grade reading and writing test and they fail. In New York State, the data isn't good. We have to go on special education, and about half the kids are classified as learning disabled, which is a euphemism for dyslexia. The passage rate is roughly around 10%, give or take. Okay. The gen ed and a lot of school districts in Long Island, you're looking at overall passage rates in the 40s and 50s, some in the early 60s for everybody. Okay. So they know that this is a problem. But once you cross that third grade and you're in fourth grade and above, you're in one of these $75,000 private schools. And federal judges in New York State literally call this gross negligence. And they will force the school districts to pay for the kid to go to one of these private schools and pay for the attorney's fees, which can easily run up to $500,000. All right. And it can go up to it is absolutely insane. So when I looked at this, how do we solve this? The best thing I can tell parents is go in if your kid is in kindergarten and contact Yale, insist that the school district does this, because then you can solve it by the end of third grade. It's been out there for decades. If you're in fourth grade or later, even if you get the funding to send to a private school, do you want to send your kid? Do you want to bus them hours? I mean, there are kids, like literally in the state of Massachusetts, there are 2 private schools. They are bused an hour and a half each way, sometimes 2 hours each way. They're the only kid on the bus. And that's what happens. Or I can show you the process that I showed you. And as I said, Kimberly solved it in about 6 months. Some take a little less, some take more. But that's just to give you a ballpark idea.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I don't know that it's malicious necessarily from the schools. I think there's probably a lot of reasons, like we said, that laundry list. I would tend to imagine sometimes it's difficult with staffing to be able to have a teacher be trained to do this one-on-one when they have to teach to a class of 30 kids. Again, I imagine there's a lot of issues.
Well, the thing is, I'm again going to what a federal judge, because these cases happen all the time. When the federal judge looks at this and they ask the school district, did you get these kids tested in kindergarten? It's cheap. It doesn't take a lot of time. Yale can tell you, or there's a lot of other Yale-like solutions out there. No. Did you implement federally funded programs that work to solve this by the end of third grade? No. You are grossly negligent. Okay. So for you, what is the term in your field? What does grossly negligent means?
I mean, you know the right thing to do and you don't do it on purpose.
No, you do something that is. We're talking what they're meaning for grossly negligent. We're talking like surgeons that leave like a scalpel in a patient and sew them up. Okay, we're talking about a level of negligence that is so severe that it's not a mistake. It's willful blindness. Okay, and now the kids are in fourth grade, and now they're reading to learn. And now, if you use this is the problem they're running into with a traditional method. Not only do these kids have to learn kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, they have to learn what they were supposed to learn already. And the longer you go forward, the harder it is. That's why
So let
I
me ask
flipped
you,
it. That's why I flipped it so we can do it the other way.
because I feel like I'm hearing what you're saying. My concern is this. To me, I feel like if there is a parent of a child who's in K-3, who's hearing this now, for them to go out and advocate to have this test done, right? And I think that there's the second part of that is you've got a kid, fourth grade and up, who obviously we can't go back in time and do it. To me, in our house, we don't care whose fault it is. I don't care if it was the teacher's fault, the principal's fault, whoever it is, it's already done. So for me, the way that I operate, I don't necessarily care whose fault it is. We're at where we're at now. I can't go back in time. And if I blame you and say, hey, you're grossly negligent, it doesn't change the fact that it didn't happen. So for me, what I'm looking at is like, how do you find the solution? And to me, what I'm hearing is it's to go through this method of training that you're advocating here, where you can do the work, again, specifics to general with your student at home, and really take an active role in your specific child's learning journey. Do I hear it right?
Right. So really what I just want everybody to understand is Dr. Orton passed away in 1948. The school that started all of this is the Gowell School. They celebrate their 100th anniversary next year. Okay, so I'm just being New York State specific. If you think your kid's dyslexic, have the teacher write up something. Go to your kid's pediatrician. They think the kid's dyslexic. Have them write something directly to your insurance company. It's really hard to say no to a pediatrician. That will allow you to get a neuropsych, which is a PhD in psychology with a lot of additional training. It's 2 days of testing. You're basically hiring this person for the week, right? You should be, even on Long Island, find something for $5,000. Anything above that, it's on you. But then you know what the heck is going on, okay? Once you know that, if they're still like kindergarten, beginning first grade, all right, you can really just go to your school and say, listen, either you contact Yale, find out these programs, implement these programs now when it's not that hard, or we're going federal and you're going to be paying my kid to go to a $100,000 a year private school, and mean it. Okay, there are advocates, attorneys out there that can help you with this, and normally that really does the trick. Now, once they're in fourth grade and above, I'm just saying generally what you're looking at is one of these private schools for about 4 to 5 years. I'll tell you to look at the Kildonan School. Look at the Windward School in Manhattan, and look at Gowell, GOW.org, right south of Buffalo from New York State, to give an idea of what this is. To give you an example of how effective the process that I have, I'm going to give you an example of my most successful students. Please understand, I have never seen this before her, and I will never, ever see this again. This is just an example of how powerful this is. Her name was Casey. I met Casey when she was in the end of fifth grade. She turned 11 over the summer. She was reading at the second grade level. She was extraordinarily interested in Theodore Roosevelt. So I assigned her this book, The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt, all 900 pages of this. Casey said she wanted to do reading first. I never do reading first. I always do writing first, because if you can write it, you can read it. Okay, if you can write it, you can read it. She said no, she wants to do the reading. I said, okay. I modified my approach. I gave it to her. I said, there's no way you're doing this. I was wrong. She locked herself in her room essentially for 2 to 3 hours a night, 6, 7 nights a week, and then most of the days during the summertime, going through this very simplistic but really repetitive process. And her parents could afford to hire me for an hour a week. So I'm working with her for 15 minutes a week, an occasional Zoom call where she says, I have a quick question, 1 or 2 minutes, and then she's done, and she's back on it. 6 months later, she's in a silent reading class. One of her classmates come over, picks up this book. What's this? And they're reading, Harry Potter or whatever. And she says from an outside reading program. None of the kids could get past the first paragraph, because that's 10th grade to first year college level, depending on who you ask. Her teacher called up her mom, said, Your daughter, I thought, had a severe reading problem. She's the best reader in the class by grade levels. What's going on? 6 months, it's just so her mom calls me. I said, what do you think your daughter's been doing in her room for the past 6 months? She's up there going through this really tedious process that I said she wouldn't do, and she did. So you could take this book, flip it to that page, point to that word, and she would tell you the dictionary definition verbatim for every word in that book. So at the end of 6 months, Casey increased her reading level by 8 grade levels, at least. Within a couple of years, I was finished working with her. She was ready for college by the end of 8th grade. So when people tell me they can't overcome the reading problems, I was like, a 10/11-year-old girl, essentially on her own, with minimum guidance from me, not only brought herself to grade level, brought herself years above grade level. It can be done.
Mm. So I don't want to overly simplify this, but one of the things I'm hearing here is taking the approach of understanding what lights that specific kid up. This child loved Teddy Roosevelt. So you give them information that speaks to what they enjoy, because that, I assume, gets over the hurdle of not wanting to do it. Is that what I'm hearing correctly? It's really understanding that specific child and what they take interest in, and then giving them more of that.
It's so much more powerful. Let me give you another point about the speciality, because why I added that as the number one area is because when I got done working with the super elite kids, I couldn't get the normal students to do anything. So then I remember when I went back, just so people understand my background, I did the New York State Assembly internship program. I went in with a first grade reading and writing level. I gave an oral presentation instead of a paper, which is standard accommodations. They recommended 15 credits of A minus. I got 15 credits of F from the State University of New York Center at Buffalo Political Science Department because they didn't like my accommodations that the state government came up with. So then I went to learn to read and write in law school. I was called on my second class in contracts by a dyslexic professor, and they crush you until you can adapt. It's called the Socratic method. He called on me. He didn't crush me. Everything lined up and focused for the first time in my life. He's 4 or 5 questions in. He's trying to crush me. I'm responding just as well as he's asking. So he starts getting a little snarky with me. I get snarky back. Within a couple of minutes, I'm leaning forward, yelling at him. He's leaning forward, yelling at me. 5, 10, 15 minutes. He had to say, Russell, I have to call time. I got to move on to the next case. You couldn't be any more correct. I essentially solved law school my second day of contracts. I learned to read within a month and to write within a couple of years. Okay. So especially what the kid is interested in is so important. So let me give you an example. Have you ever taken your kids to Disney World?
No.
Okay.
Actually, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, we have.
Okay. They were probably really young. How young were they?
They were, I think, 5 and 3.
Okay, so your 5-year-old that went to Disney, did they go in and see the Disney magic, get to feel it? Okay, this is my most popular book by far. All right, Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination. All 1,000 pages of it. I'll give that to a 10-year-old because I want you to imagine Disney where the kids love it so much, they want to go back multiple times a year, okay? And they want to know, what's this Disney magic? And I tell them, well, Walt Disney himself passed away in 1965. He created this. They're like, well, what's the Disney magic? I said, I send them to a part of the book on Marceline, Missouri. You walk in, you know how you walk into Magic Kingdom and it's Main Street, USA? That's Marceline, Missouri. That's where he was between 5 and 10. He spent his entire life trying to get back there. I said, it's 2 universal themes. And the kids are like, what's the universal themes? I said, no, you got to read the book to find out. So I give them this massive book. And in this example, 2 years later, finally, remember, Casey did this in 6 months. 2 years later, this 12-year-old girl, she started at 10, found it. And then she asked her mom, who has a master's degree. Mom can't find it. So her 12-year-old daughter will point to it and say, Mom, it's right there. And the mom couldn't. She's like, I can't believe I missed it. And I said, at this time, your 12-year-old dyslexic daughter can comprehend better than you can. Have I done my job? That's a more realistic time frame. But for this child, she now knew what those 2 universal themes are at 12. This is meant for 17-year-olds. Then I showed her how to develop that into how to write at the graduate school level over the next several years. Now, if she ever decides to go to work for Disney, and they're putting up a new hot dog stand or whatever, she can say, based on what you're doing, here's what Walt probably would have done to instill the Disney magic here. And if one of those ideas is useful, that could be a $500,000, $1 million plus idea, which she can generate all day long. They're willing to go through all this tremendous work because they're tremendously interested. So during the intervention period, it is critical to do that. Now, to give you an example, I put Casey on this book. She hated Disney. And I talked to her mom, got it approved by her parents. And I just wanted to know, how much of a motivation gap are we dropping? For her, it was about 50%. For typical students, you're talking about 75, 80%. Then if you teach from the specific to the general, the way schools teach, you're down even more. They're not trying to design the system to make these kids fail. It's just that our brains are completely opposite on how we work. Dyslexics excel once we hit grad school, and it's hard for us until we get there.
I love that. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I almost feel selfish in a way because I received so much information here personally. I just want to thank you for all of the things you shared. And how can we learn more for those people who are interested in learning more? I assume there's a ton more to learn. Where's the next best step from here?
Simply the best thing to do is just to go to my website, Dyslexia Classes, plural with an S, dyslexiaclasses.com. There's a button there that says download free guide. It's 3 reasons your child's having trouble in school due to dyslexia. Then you set up a time. Just go to my online calendar, set up a time. It's a half an hour with me and your child. Once they found out that I'm like them, they get excited. All right. And then I ask them a few questions, and then I figure out what their specialty is. And I find out if we can get them a book and an audio book, or like John, we have to create something customized. Then we ask, is this how you want to learn to overcome your issues? Vast majority of the time, it's yes. Then I talk with the parents on how we can set up something affordable where we work with families on a yearly basis. We have a weekly webinar. We have everything online. And we have a weekly webinar to answer your questions so that we give you, honestly, the most support of anybody in the industry for a fraction of what most people charge. And I'm doing it that way because I don't want kids to go through the hell that I went through. And yes, we do work with families that are financially challenged. I said with Casey, we made that work. And I just don't want people to go through what I went through, which was unadulterated hell.
Well, if it's any consolation, I believe that all of that struggle you went through now is paying off for all of these other kids. Like, obviously, it's never fun to endure that, but I again give you tremendous honor for enduring it and then using that now as a superpower to come back and help other people not have to go through that. So again, just kudos to you for taking what could have been a very tragic turn and using it for triumph. So again, huge honor to you.
And I will let parents know I am the only one doing this. Everybody else is, how do I know? The International Dyslexia Association's annual conference is the biggest annual conference in North America. I've been a reviewer there for years for reading and writing programs. They are now at the micro part of a leaf on a tree to change things. Okay, it's so minute that they're changing it from Morton Gillingham. They haven't got past that. So I'm the only one literally doing this process. And if you want to know more, just check me out online and I can see what we can do to help.
I love it. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
Happy birthday to you.
Cha cha cha.
Happy birthday.